Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Thy&Smi Podcast. I'm Vitality. I'm joined, not as always, but thankfully this time, I'm joined by my co-host, Nick. Nick, how's it going?
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Really good, really good. So we've got a fun show planned with a couple of great guests. We'll get to them in just a couple of seconds. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. I see a couple people who are here for, we could call it the pre-show, right? Chad Spieger, Cliff Victoria, Antmas, and of course, the Kaluch. How's it going, John? Thanks for joining us. This is cool. That's awesome that he's able to share that. So CNG Podcast is going to be one of our guests, of course, but we're also joined by a special someone named Plank. Now, for those who are familiar with Plank and BCP, Bears Country Productions, he was actually on a bit of a media tour. I feel like today is kind of the cap off before he gets down to the nitty gritty. But in that same breath, we are simulcasting currently on the Thy&Smi podcast channels, the Bears Country Productions channels, as well as the CNG podcast across Facebook and Twitter, I believe. So if you guys are not not following or subscribed to either of those channels, go ahead and feel free to consider doing so. Without any further ado, Nick, I say let's bring on our first guest tonight. We'll have them both on the same time, but we are joined, like I said, by the fabulous Mr. Plank. How's it going, sir?
What's up,
I don't
Plank?
know about fabulous, man, but I'm good. I'm good.
Well, it's really nice to have you, Plank. I think that your time, especially in relation to Bears Country Productions, precedes even myself. I think that you've been around for a long time in the space, and like I've been mentioning to you in DMs, it's really nice to have you on because I think that your opinion, it's consistent, it's really supportive, and I'm just very happy that you're spending your time with us.
Well, I appreciate you guys even having me, honestly. I mean, I'm just a guy in the chat, right? I'm just a guy in the chat.
That's what I sometimes feel like on Thursdays, man, but it all adds up. You're a special part of the community, in my opinion, and it's so awesome that you're kind of, ruffling your feathers and spreading out between different platforms. That's what I've become accustomed to with everyone in this space. You do some great work with Chicago Sports Podcast. Shout out to them. They're a great bunch of fellows as well. Is that something, Plank, that you'll be doing consistently?
Yeah, tracks, he gave me a shot. It's going to be every Wednesday and every Friday. It was something I thought maybe I might do at one time. I've got working on a Bears den, got an area, and I thought maybe I'll do Shorty, he was always wanting to have me on. And I was like, hey, I'm not really there yet. And there was some others and, Swift being another one. And I'm like, I'm not really ready for that. And then it was like, okay, I guess I'll make myself ready. I'm like the baby bird that doesn't want to fly. It's got to be pushed out of the nest, apparently.
That's okay. Well, you've definitely
Yeah.
been shoved off the deep end, so to speak. And like I said, I've enjoyed listening to you on CSP, Chicago Sports Podcast. And I think you were just the guest this Thursday on Bears Country Productions. I feel terrible I wasn't able to produce that show
You're
and
fine. Yeah.
join you guys. Had some things closer to home that I wanted to deal with, but always a part of BCP. We'll be back at it on Thursday. And I'm hoping I'm able to catch a show over on CSP to, catch yourself, Plank. Again, without further ado, we've got another special guest that will be joining us today. He's a part of the CNG podcast, and of course, I think this is his fourth time on BCP, definitely like third time on the Thy&Smi podcast. It's none other, than G Walker. G Walker, are you with us? He might be in the middle of sharing, and that's quite all right. Oh, are you there?
1 second. What's going on, everybody? It's G Walker. I'll be in here 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds, big dog.
You're good.
30
You're good, man. Take your time. Take your time. Awesome. And I'll make sure all the links to everyone's channels are in the description down below. I'll try and get some socials up on the screen as well to make it easy for everyone. Plank, do you want us to advertise your Twitter when it gets to that point? Or you don't currently have your own YouTube channel yet, do you?
No, I don't know that I ever would. But,
Okay.
yeah, no, right now it's just CSP.
You got it. Okay, well, I'll definitely make sure that the link to the Chicago Sports Podcast is down below. CSP's great. They're always in the Thursday show on BCP, always donating. Guys are fantastic, not just treks, but I feel like everyone associated with them, so thank you for that. All right, guys, I had a little bit of itinerary to kind of start off with. I don't know if we want to start with any breaking news that kind of released today. I saw that the Commanders had traded for Deebo Samuel for a measly 5th-round pick. Do you guys want to start off and get that knocked out real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Nick, you haven't been talking too much, Nick. What's going on with that Deebo trade? What are your initial thoughts to that?
It's kind of crazy to think that he went for a 5th round when not only 2 years ago we were talking about him going for a first and then some before he got paid, or I think it was maybe longer ago than that. I don't recall, because I remember they were having trade talks with him at some point because he wanted to get paid and they didn't want to pay him at the time. Same thing they did with Brandon Ayuk. I can see why they only got a 5th for him. He did not produce at all last year. Wasn't really much of anything, was kind of a dud on the field. And I saw that I think in his last 25 plus career games, he has 4 100-yard games or something like that. It's very, very abysmal. So he hasn't really been a part of the team. I don't want to say, I guess I could put it that way. He hasn't really been a part of the team, putting in stats up for the team. I mean, the Commanders kind of got a steal out of it, I guess, in a sense. Adding Marshawn Lattimore at the end of the season last year for, I think, what was it, a 2nd? Or a 3rd.
It may have been a 3rd. Yeah, it was last.
Yeah, 3rd and some picks and some other picks, and then getting Deebo now. So it just, you got to hope he can come in and, be an asset to the team. But I don't know. I almost see it as like they didn't need to do this because they're going to take snaps away from Terry McLaurin, who's just finally, I wouldn't say coming into himself, because he's always been, one of those top flight wide receivers.
Who's they, Nick? The Commanders? The Commanders didn't have to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because, I mean, you saw what they did last year with the measly wide receiver core they had. They could have went out and drafted somebody, could have went out and, gotten, a B, C level free agent, and now they have to owe him, I think, $15 million this year. And he's going to take snaps away from Terry McLaurin. That's just the end of it. He's going to take snaps away from the running backs. He's going to want to be involved in the running game. So, I mean,
you can see the cap hit. It says that San Francisco is going to absorb a $31.5 million dead money on this year's salary cap.
Right.
We'll count $17.5 million on Washington's salary cap.
He's 17.5 this year. So, I mean, it's almost kind of like the Keenan Allen situation. But I would go ahead and say right now at this point, I think Keenan Allen is better than Deebo Samuel. I think he's more of a reliable target for a quarterback than Deebo Samuel would be.
I fully agree with you there, too.
So, I mean, you have to look at it this way, is that he plays running back also, and that's going to put a wear and tear on his body of other wide receivers that's not going to have that. He's got a little bit more miles on him technically than other wide receivers are going to have. That's just the plain truth of it.
Yeah. Plank, what are your initial thoughts to that trade? Nick made a good point just referencing the Keenan Allen trade. Technically, Keenan Allen cost more via trade than Deebo Samuel, but what were your initial thoughts to the trade, Plank?
Well, I mean, it's good for the Commanders. I think that, Deebo, he last year, he wanted out. He talked. I'm not a player. I don't want to call anybody a diva, but is Deebo a diva? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. He wanted it last year at this time, or maybe it was a little later in the season, or later. I guess closer to the start of the season last year than maybe this year when he was talking wanting a trade. And did they get rid of him because he was an issue? That's the thing. And they're like, to me, them taking only a 5th for him is kind of like, this is what we could get. Let's just get him out of the building. But only time will tell. And a new start with any team could be good. I mean, we all see that with other players. They go somewhere else. Maybe they're just not happy. That could be his thing. He's just not happy there.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the production for Deebo Samuel, I think it goes hand in hand with they've got a really good player caller on offense. It's their head coach, but Kyle Shanahan, he knows how to spread the ball around, right? And if you've got a football team with George Kittle, he's got to be essentially plan A. So if Deebo's not, I don't think that Deebo has the same juice, right? Like he's not the same get the ball behind the line of scrimmage and you're fearful of him scoring a touchdown. Maybe that has to go hand in hand with the copious amounts of weight that he seems to have added to his body. But at the end of the day, him being cheaper, I think it just signifies how much the 49ers want to get rid of salary cap space, because they're going to have to sign a quarterback who this year I think is only making a measly $1 million. And next year, that cap hit might be, what, $55, $60 million for that same quarterback if they go that route. So, G. Walker, welcome back. I hope that we can hear you still.
Yeah, can you hear me? What's up, fellas?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had mentioned to the boys that we had some breaking news. Deebo Samuel was traded to the Commanders for a measly 5th-round pick. What are your immediate thoughts and reaction to that? What's up?
You mean a spicy? You mean a bag of spicy nacho Doritos?
Yeah, I
man?
saw that
That's what they
tweet.
trade him for,
Absolutely. That's the equivalent. Yeah.
I mean,
D-Hop trade.
he must be over the hump or something, bro. Like you let go of a guy that's supposedly a weapon. You know what I mean? That could run, catch after, get the ball after the pass. You can use him in the backfield. He could catch and all that. If they got rid of him for a 5th round pick, pretty much a bag of Skittles and iced tea, bro. He's washed up.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it goes hand in hand with them having to pay their quarterback. It's really awkward to say that the Commanders wide receiver that they just traded for costs more than the Chicago Bears punter. Because we drafted a punter in the 4th, and that wide receiver for the Commanders only cost a 5th. So, kind of interesting stuff there. I don't know if there's too much more to say about Deebo Samuel. I would love to get into some scouting combine information that's been releasing over the last few days. I guess let's start with the good old Mason Graham, the potential Hall of Famer, if you will. So not today actually, I think the measurements came in yesterday for the offensive and defensive linemen. I can't remember. But Mason Graham's measurables kind of equated to him having shorter arms, and some people are saying that maybe he's going to be taken off of some draft boards initially just because he's not going to hit like a measurement requirement, right? Oh, if he doesn't have 33-inch arms, whatever the case is, right? So, Nick, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Mason Graham potentially being undersized, and do you think that could equate, in a perfect storm, in my opinion, to Mason Graham falling to 10 at the Chicago Bears? Do you think it's possible?
I mean, it's possible. You've seen it happen with players before. Aaron Donald was undersized. I mean, yes, he still went at pick 14 at the time after we drafted Kyle Fuller right after him.
Kyle Fuller was selected right after him, right? So, yeah. I don't mean to cut you off, but history repeats itself. Yeah. So that in mind, please continue.
Yeah, but I mean, you do see sometimes all over the league that, they do take players off the board because they don't meet those measurables, just because history says people with these measurables are going to give you this kind of production. And, some teams follow that and some teams are going to take the chance on it. And I think it's true. I think a couple teams are going to take them off the board. That's just how it's going to be. A lot of teams don't go that too in-depth in it. I mean, I know they have to, and they're probably going to, but at the end of the day, they're not going to look at it. Some teams aren't really going to care about the measurables at the end of the day. Some teams are going to care about the player and what he does on and off the field, and he puts out a lot of great tape on the field.
Yeah, let me be the first to tell you as a Michigan fan. Plank, have you gotten a chance to see any Mason Graham highlights or film?
Well, I don't waste my time on Michigan people.
God bless you, Plank. I love you.
Dude, I'm just kidding. Yeah, look, I'm not a big college guy. I'm not going to try to come off like I am. I'm not going to try to act like I know things that I do not know. But so the things that I see are the highlights that everybody sees. And then, what I've seen over on J2K's NFL Draft Channel, he's simply killing it.
Good shout
there.
out. Absolutely.
I mean, I like it. I like him. I really do. I'm not going to have a problem drafting him. I just not.
Yeah, I mean, from a philosophy standpoint, too, I mean, you'd be getting potentially an all-pro 3-tech in a system where if you're running a 4-3, you need a really good 3-tech, because the idea with the 4-3 defense is to have 4 guys beat the 5 offensive linemen and cause pressure, and then you've got a numbers advantage with the additional coverage with, I can't do math, the 7 players behind him, right? G. Walker, have you gotten a chance to take a look at Mason Graham whatsoever?
I mean, just a little bit, man. You know what? You got to go up what you guys putting on tape. Everybody want to go as measurables. Okay, the measurables are fine, but what's in his heart? What's in his chest? What motivates him to be the best player on the field at any given moment of time? So a guy like that is not going to fall that far, man. Like, whatever he's putting up on tape, let the tape tell the story. Don't be the smartest person in the room, or his arms are too short and all this. He don't run the fastest 40. Like, that doesn't matter. What is he doing on tape? What is he? Yeah, it's all about heart. Like, is he getting to running backs? Is he getting to wide receivers? Is he tackling tight ends? Getting to the quarterback? That's all that matters to me, man. So he's not going to dip too far, man. I wish him the best, too.
Didn't they say the same thing about Rashawn Slater, like a few years back? When he was drafted, they said his arms were too short or his hands were too small or something like that. And now he's I don't want to say an all-pro tackle, but
I can tell you that's the exact story with Will Campbell, right? Will Campbell, in my opinion, who's the clear-cut, best offensive lineman period in this NFL draft.
100%.
He's got short arms. Yeah. Oh, well, his arms are too short. He can't play tackle. That means he has to play guard. Right. Oh, we're going to take a guard too tall. But Rashawn Slater is a tackle for the Chargers, correct?
Practically an all-pro. An all-pro.
Yeah. So
He's been locked down ever since he got drafted.
So exactly to G. Walker's point, it's not about the measurables so much as it's about the tape. And let me be the first to tell you, I don't care if he had a really good player in Kenneth Grant next to him. I genuinely think that Mason Graham could be a Hall of Famer just because of, his attitude and the way that he plays football outside of anything else. I think that segues good into the next question I had for you guys, which it kind of builds off the measurables. We've seen some athletic freaks during this NFL scouting combine up to this point. They both play defense, but when I talk about freaks, I mean these guys are nuts. So Shamar Stewart, the defensive end out of Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, yep.
And Nick Amenwari, the safety out of South Carolina. These guys have got 40-inch verticals, can run 40 yards in less than 4.5 seconds. I think Nick Amenwari had a 4.38, just blazing speed. I don't know what their bench press was, but this is more so for Shamar Stewart, okay? Because Shamar Stewart is a guy who I think in 3 years of college football only put up 3.5 sacks. That's not good for a defensive end. That's a lot worse than what we just released with DeMarcus Walker, if you want to just say, production alone, right? So my question to you guys is, how high are you willing to draft a player who has low production but flashes the traits on tape? And is that something, are you guys comfortable with selecting a player like that in the top 10? Because a lot of people, I just did a mock draft last week. I drafted Shamar Stewart at 39, knowing that he wouldn't be there. But Shamar Stewart as a project in the second round is very intriguing to me and I think is worthy of the selection. But I've seen him mocked to people in the top 10. Nick, I'll start with you if you're ready for it. Are you willing to select? You need 1 second? Let me hear Plank's thoughts then. Plank, would you be willing to take a guy like Shamar Stewart in the top 10 knowing that he has virtually zero production in college?
Well, I've got him as 4.5 sacks. Maybe that
you might be right. You may be right.
Look, I'm really not. I think that I'm not really one who gets caught up on you can't draft a player here, you can't draft a player there. But it's about development. Okay, that's really what it's about at this point. If you have a guy who you think is going to be good with the system that we have, and being able, and it's all new coaches. Dennis Allen has proven that he can develop players. So that's really what it comes to, and it goes to the heart of a player. Heart is 9/10 of it. Honestly, that's the way I feel. You can have all kinds of talent, take it for granted, and be, but you can have a guy who can, who has all the heart and is willing to practice his ass off, give 150% every game, every snap in practice. And again, I mean, he's been compared to Garrett, but I mean, only a lot of people compare a lot of people to, again, a lot of people. It's what translates to the NFL. I feel we have a good, we'll see, but I think we can actually develop people now. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Myles Garrett because that's spot on. Like, he's within like tenths of an inch as far as the comparisons, right? So physically, if you told me you had a chance to draft Myles Garrett, obviously you'd be all for that. But I would wager that Myles Garrett had more than 4.5 sacks in his time in college. Nick, what are your thoughts?
I don't think you can go with a project like that at 10. I mean, I agree with Cliff here. You got to go with, I don't want to say sure things because nothing's a sure thing in the NFL. You know, Shamar might be a sure thing. You really never know. But you got to go with somebody that unfortunately has put up production on the field. Measurables are great. Measurables are awesome. I mean, you look at Dominic Robinson that we took a few years back. He had great measurables as a defensive end. He played different positions and everything that we are all talked about. Ryan Post talked up about how much he's this developmental prospect that he's going to be, you know, he's got everything that you want in a defensive end. What has he done? He's been healthy scratches for the past year and a half. Shamar would be a great pick at 39. I'd be banging the table for him, you know, pounding the table. If I'd be turning my card in the second it's there at 39, but a top 10 pick, you need something as sure as possible, and that's not him.
Yeah, it's not Shamar Stewart, man. G. Walker, what are your thoughts, man?
I agree with most of you guys. It's just what is it going to come down to? How old is he? What scheme is he in? You know what I mean? Things of that nature matter. Like how much is left, so many words, how much meat is left on the bone to grow this guy in a system like Dennis Allen? Is he 19, 20? How old is he? Is he three? Like what is really going on with his development? Because that's what it's all about. Like if you're showing me that you got 4 sacks, you pretty much a DeMarcus Walker type of player. Like you're mid. You know what I mean? You're not showing me that you're worth a top 10 pick. Not at all. But at the same time, how much value are you putting on sacks than what you're putting on hurries? I think I'm in the age where I'm putting more value on hurries and pressure.
And let me tell you, G. Walker, he does have the hurries. They're there. And he's got a good running mate next to him, though, who also, Nick Scourton, who could potentially be a first-round pick. So I consider it to be a red flag, and I hate to cut you off, G. Walker. I don't know if you want to cap that off, but I do agree with the hurries bit.
Yeah, it's just that matters to me because you're not going to get a sack every play. But are you being disruptive? Is the quarterback hurrying up? Are you pressuring them? Like all that stuff matters to me. So I will look into that a little bit deeper, and I'll look how old he is, and the scheme and everything like that. So I'll put all that in consideration. But as my answer to take him 10, nope, nope. Even with that being said, no.
So I want to piggyback off of what you said there, G. Walker. I agree with you 100%. That it's not always about the sacks, it's about the hurries and everything like that. You also have to take a look at, and I haven't personally looked at his film or anything like that, but you have to see about what he does well and how he affects the quarterback in different ways, because you can say the same thing about Montez Sweat this past season. He didn't have a ton of sacks, but he affected the shit out of the quarterback. He's back there. He's getting there. He's just not getting the production, unfortunately, but he did his job. He did his job very well. He didn't have the stats to show for it. But you see that he's hurrying the quarterback up. He's making him go through his progressions much faster. He's helping out his other guys while he's getting double teamed a lot. You got to take that into account too. And I'm not trying to defend taking Shamar at 10 because obviously I would say no. But you have to take all that into account too. And yes, like you said, Karl, you had Nick Scourton on the other side of the line, who's also a first-round pick. I don't know his stats off the top of my head, but you have to take into account that he helped him out a lot by taking a lot of pressure off of him.
I'm sure that you could spin it the opposite way, and like you, I have not delved into the Texas A&M film. I don't even think I watched a singular snap of them during the college football season live.
Yeah.
What it boils down to, though, is the Bears aren't able to gamble with house money, so to speak, yet. I think that once you're in the stratosphere of having a quarterback and a head coach pairing that has won a playoff game, I think at that point you can start to afford to take risks like the Philadelphia Eagles, who took an alleged murderer at 9. So that's the type of thing that we can get into after we've got some more experience. But we cannot buy a Project Car at 10th overall. I think that it'd be S9, if I'm being honest.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Please.
So you also I agree with you when it comes to the QB and head coach winning a playoff game. I agree to that. That's when you can start taking, a little bit more shots, I guess you could say, like the Eagles do with their players, like they did with Nolan Smith, they did with Jalen Carter and all that kind of stuff. You have to take a step back and see what Dennis Allen can do with this defense and what the defensive line coach can do with this defensive line. You have to take that into account too and see how he develops the players that are already on this roster, and then take a look at it maybe next year in the draft and say, hey, you know what, you did this very well, and if you have a prototypical guy that you like to go for, maybe we could take a shot. Obviously, if the cards all fall right and, it falls to the spot that you want to take him at and everything, you have to take all that into account, too, because you can't just go taking shots at random guys at, pick 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and stuff.
What
like
up,
that.
Darcy?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I'm definitely of the thought of once you have a scheme that's set, I think we can all agree, even...
Proven. That's like proven.
Yeah. I don't want to say God forbid, right? But what if Dennis Allen has the Chicago Bears in 2025 be the number 1 ranked defense on whatever metric you want to have it, right? Consensus best defense. I don't think that Dennis Allen leaves the Chicago Bears to be a head coach somewhere else.
He's not getting a head coach anytime soon.
Right. So let him build the foundation. Yeah, let's let him build the foundation. Let's get some free agents in here to fit the mold. And like Nick said, once we have a proven system that we know what we need, maybe, God forbid, again, we win a playoff game in 2025, then we can start talking about taking these athletic freaks higher up in the draft. And again, I hope the Bears don't have a top 10 pick next year.
That's kind of the way I think about with when talking about the Eagles, is they have Jeff Stoutland, their offensive line coach, who has time and time again taken players, developed them, and molded them into practically Hall of Fame All-Pro players. Did that with Kelsey, did that with Landon Dickerson, did that with Cam Jurgens, did that with Jordan Mailata, who nobody had was Jordan Mailata like a 7th-round pick? Or something like that.
He was either a 7th-round pick or they got him as an undrafted free agent,
right,
because I think he was a rugby player.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, you see them do that, and that's kind of like the mold that you want to go after, is having somebody like that. Now, you're hoping that Dan Rushar can do that. He did that with the Saints. Just have to see if he can do it again.
Dan Rushar is your offensive line coach, for the record.
Right.
And I don't know if he'd have any
I was comparing
impact.
him with Jeff Saltman, the offensive line coach of the Eagles.
Okay, you got it. I would like to transition now to talking about taking risks early in the draft, because I have been banging the drum on the Chicago Bears needing to upgrade at the running back position. I have the short that's doing well right now. I said DeAndre Swift isn't good enough. And I don't mean that DeAndre Swift needs to get cut. I'm close to the point where saying he should get traded for a certain someone that someone mentioned in the chat earlier. But what do you guys think about drafting a running back at 10th overall? Nick, I don't know if you want to start.
It depends on free agency. It's hard to give a definitive yes or no. You have to see what he dedicates money to in free agency, whether he goes and gets a center, whether he goes and gets another guard. I'm almost 85% sure Kevin Zeitler's coming here. I'm more than
After
halfway
the Trey
there.
Smith debacle, I think you're right.
I'm more than halfway there with my gut feeling with Ben Johnson having his connections that he does. Does Drew Dahlman sign with us? Does Will Fry sign with us? I mean, you're going to pay a little bit more for Will Fries. You might have to pay a little bit more for Drew Dahlman because there are some other center needy teams. But yeah, it all depends on free agency. But I mean, I've even been seeing now these analysts are talking about Arian Hampton even being worth a high first-round pick. Along with, I mean, there were talks that some people have Hampton over Genty in some of their mocks.
I talked to Adam Mason about that.
I honestly, barring everything goes well in free agency, I would pound the table for Genty or Hampton. You saw the Lions do it. Now, granted, Lions were in a much better position than the Bears are right now with their offensive line, but you saw how important that running back is. And yes, I'm sorry to say, DeAndre Swift is not good enough to be your lead back. He's just not. He's not. I've seen so many countless tape.
Why is that so taboo, by the way? Like,
I don't know.
people are
just love
attacking me
DeAndre
for that.
Swift or something, but I've seen so much film where he has wide open lanes and his vision is just horrible.
Yeah, he's cosplaying as Barry Sanders in the hole. Like, if Gale Sayers had that much daylight, you know what he would be saying, so I don't understand DeAndre Swift. Plank, What are your thoughts? I guess you could say the running back room as a whole for the Chicago Bears, and if you'd feel comfortable taking a running back at 10.
No. Well, it goes to exactly what Nick says. It depends on what free agency does. If we don't, you know what? This might be indecisive. Let's say this: if they shore up, I'm still kind of no. Even at 10, even if they address things in free agency, you bring in. Just left me. The dude from the center from Atlanta, Dahlman.
Drew Dahlman.
Drew Dahlman, yep.
Okay, you bring.
There's guys. There's guys pounding the table for Will Fries.
I always say Zeitler, but I guess it's what Zettler. But
Zeitler, whatever the case
Zeitler.
is.
So
Call him the Big Z for all I care.
You bring him in. I don't have a problem with bringing these guys in. But it's more of maybe bridge. If it takes a couple years to get alignment up to par, I still want to draft O-line and D-line in the beginning. So I'm going to go with no at a running back at 10, regardless of what they do in free agency. I guess that's really my opinion on it.
Now, can I want to add something to that? You know how, granted, Saquon Barkley was a free agency addition. He wasn't drafted. And yes, the Eagles have a better offensive line, but it's kind of hard seeing how far a running back actually took them the entire season. Like, he carried that team on their back. So, and you see what the Lions have with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. You have teams that they rely on their running back, and their running back comes through for them. And that's where I kind of would pound the table for running back, because you can see what he can do for the quarterback and the passing game as well. He carried that Eagles team throughout the entire season into the playoffs.
Nick, let me ask you, let's piggyback off that just real quick. Do the Eagles even reach the Super Bowl with DeAndre Swift as their lead back?
No.
Is Jared Goff sniffing Pro Bowl or All-Pro potential without both of those fantastic running backs?
Their offensive line is good enough, I think, that
right. That's fair.
Play of the long developing plays that Ben Johnson had in his bag.
The trick plays, the stumble bomb.
I don't think it really. I don't want to say it didn't matter who the running back was, because of how good the Lions. Same thing with the Eagles and the Lions. But you saw what Saquon Barkley did. You saw him almost break Eric Dickerson's record. You see what Jahmyr Gibbs can do in open field and make people miss in his straight line speed.
Don't get me started on.
Still plays as well as he does without that running game. I truthfully,
that's
truthfully
fair.
do, just because of how good Ben Johnson was and is.
I don't think that the Lions are a potential Super Bowl winner without Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh,
G. Walker,
110%.
G. Walker, my boy, what are your thoughts on the Bears potentially drafting Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton at 10, or do you think that they should even draft a running back in the first or second round altogether?
Is this is what we have to ask ourselves? Is Genty generational? Is he Adrian Peterson? Is he getting rid of defensive tackles and defensive ends off first contact of breaking tackles? What is he without this offensive line being what it is?
And you're not going to know until he's drafted.
What was the conference that he played in? What was the level of competition that he played in? Like, all that stuff kind of matters. Like,
what's the level of competition that he played with? His offensive line. That's what
I'm saying. That matters. Everything like that matters. So I wouldn't pick him at 10, but if he's generational enough to where he's destroying that first person that tried to tackle him more often than not, I'm taking him. I'm absolutely taking him despite the offensive line if he's that. But if he's not that at 10, a running back, we shouldn't take him. We should build the offensive line and we should build the defensive line. I'm not taking him 10 unless he's really, after that first hit of contact and he's getting 3-4 yards, we got to take him. Other than that, I'm not taking him. I don't know with this offensive line, no.
I would call it an arrogant move.
Would you compare him to Bijan Robinson?
Is Bijan Robinson getting rid of shredding tackles off the first contact?
Yeah.
More often than not?
Yeah.
Is that offensive line trash in Atlanta? What is it?
Absolutely not. They've injected at least 3. I think they have 4 first-round picks on their offensive line.
Well, they have Jake Matthews, Chris Lindstrom, and I don't know what Dahlman was, and I don't know who their left guard is.
If he's a guy that trash tackles, we have to take him, bro. And I'm not a running back person at all, but if he's that good, and we can still get guys that are okay, above average, not elite on that offensive line in free agency, I think he's worth the gamble if he's shredding tackles like that.
I've got some terrible news for you. There's no more elite offensive linemen left because the goddamn Kansas City Chiefs applied the franchise tag to Trey Smith.
Not even above average?
A transition tag.
Are you sure about that?
They traded Snead.
The Chiefs tweeted it out.
I don't think it was transition tag.
Really?
No, it was
tag.
I thought I
saw the Chiefs. I thought I saw
it was
the
a
Chiefs.
tag, but I don't.
I wouldn't take it, bro. I wouldn't take it.
I think it was.
So here,
we have placed a non-exclusive franchise tender on Trey Smith.
Yeah.
Well, that means he can still talk to teams and get a number, right?
Well,
and they have to match it.
This is really similar to what the Ravens did to Lamar Jackson.
But that's a whole different stratosphere because you're sinking 150, but you're also sinking 150, 200 million into, or more than that, 250 million into Lamar Jackson plus 2 first-round picks if they end up.
That's what I'm trying to say here is that the default compensation is 2 first-round picks to make it fair, but the Bears and Chiefs can negotiate about this. The Chiefs, and I got just ripped to shreds. I got called any word you could think of, any sort of brain deficiency that you can conjure up. That's what I got called for suggesting that the Bears could still trade for Trey Smith. Now
they still can, yeah.
Where I got really messed up on, where people got mad, is that I suggested that why can't the Bears and Chiefs find a way to start by swapping Tevin Jenkins and Trey Smith? Why is that so taboo? It's awkward, it's hard to accomplish, but if that's who the Chiefs want, the Chiefs could absolutely say these are the terms of the condition for Tevin Jenkins. The Bears, you're going to sign him to this contract before you trade him to us, and you're going to eat some of the salary for Tevin Jenkins because now the Chiefs have to pay Nick Bolton. I can't think of the defensive end that they have, but all these they've got to pay players. That's the name of the game. And I genuinely, in my heart, feel and know that Trey Smith is not going to play on the Chiefs in 2025 because at 24, essentially fully guaranteed $1 million, they can't afford that.
Yeah, especially with Travis Kelce coming back,
yeah.
he's saying he's
coming
back.
He's not retiring.
I think 15 million or something like that.
And the fact that they didn't offer him a deal let you know right there, and they just gave him the tag, like the Bears could come right up in there and get it. Like he's going to be upset about that, man. So it's not over yet, man. It's not over yet. We can still
I remember. Was it Veach? Is that his name? The GM?
Veach
of
the Chiefs.
I think. Brett Veach, or is that the owner? I can't think.
Oh,
Nonetheless, their GM came out and said, we're so close on a multi-year extension, so close. And then I don't think they're getting rid of Thuney.
Let's be honest. Joe Thuney's a Hall of Famer, and he's just as good as Creed Humphrey as a guard.
I think I saw this crazy stat.
Yeah.
I think I saw this crazy stat about Joe Thuney. He's been to the Super Bowl, I think, 7 of his 9 years in the playoffs.
Yeah,
In the
he
NFL.
won
7 of
multiple
his 9
Super Bowls with the Patriots and then went to the Chiefs when the Chiefs dethroned him. Joe Thuney's walking into the Hall of Fame like you've never seen. He's a great player.
He
What's up?
came in at tackle for them and was still a lockdown at tackle. And he plays guard all the time.
Scottish Bear, welcome in. I appreciate the blurb here, but that almost corroborates my story. If Tevin Jenkins is linked to other situations, if the Chiefs need a right guard and they can't pay the one they have, and they need someone to help pay for a good one, I don't see why that couldn't happen. Again, I accept that it's taboo, and maybe you want to call it stupid, and it probably won't happen. That's fine. But I shouldn't be slandered for having that thought, because I can guarantee you that.
I mean, it's
Trey
thinking outside
Smith.
the box.
It's not
thinking
even.
outside the
It's
box.
not even the fact that Tampa Jenkins is bad. Those offensive line.
not.
Can you bring that comment back up? That comment was it the Patriots and who?
Niners.
49ers. Are those offensive lines good? But at the same time, he has to stay healthy.
Not
Kevin
the
Jenkins
Patriots.
is a
That's
top
the
3
whole
guard.
key
Yeah.
right there.
He's a top 3 guard in the NFL when he's healthy, bro. Like you can't keep gambling on that every season for him to stay around. Like it's not at this point. What he's been here 3 years or something like that. Like come on, bro. Like
4
come
years.
on.
I think this is 4th
Yeah,
year.
there's no fifth-year option to sign
mean,
because
there's a
he was a
reason.
second-round pick.
There's a reason
gotta
why
go.
they said before the season started, come back to us at the bye week and we'll talk about a contract extension. We'll see how healthy you've been. And he didn't. I don't even think he made it to the bye week.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
He had a chance to show the Bears that he wanted to play meaningful football games for them. And against the arch-rival Packers, last game of the season where it doesn't matter, you're not going to the playoffs, he said, "Oh, my calf hurts. I can't play." Come
Calf. I said if he gives us 12 or 13 games this year, he's getting an extension. So, but how
well,
many
he
games
had
did he play?
14. He
Tell you how many
played
games he played
14
right now.
games this year. Now I'm not justifying anything, and this
played
is
what?
the most games he's played in a season. But he did
What?
have 14 games.
He played 14 games this year.
Tevin Jenkins
14.
played the most games for a Chicago Bears in one season this year? In his career?
That's the information I found, that Tev had played 14 games. I was surprised.
My
Could be
God.
wrong, right?
That's
I'm not.
and
even-
I called that at the beginning of the season. I said if he gets to 12 or 13 games, there might be a conversation that need to be had, and maybe turn the corner or something. That's gonna be interesting to see.
So
But I wouldn't pay him.
I'm glad we've got Tev up while we're talking about Tev, because now, and this is something I had resigned to the fact, I hadn't even considered Tev as an option. I resigned to the fact that we were done with him, that we were moving on from him. But now that Trey Smith's off the table, is Tev the best one available? That's the question. We know Tev. He had 14 games. Can we get more out of him? Is the coaching staff better? I know people maybe want to move on from him, but I don't know.
So
That's
this is the
and that's the money.
This is the problem. So again,
Good.
this
I
is a
agree.
tweet that
I
I
agree,
made,
Mike.
but this is the framework that Pro Football Focus is suggesting. Sam Cosmi was drafted in the same draft as Tevin
Yes.
Jenkins, the same round, and Sam Cosmi was drafted to start at tackle. I don't know if he wasn't good enough or got injured. I do think that Sam Cosmi had some injuries before that terrible ACL injury he had in the playoffs, but he was moved to guard, and he got an extension, clearly says 4 years, $74 million. Why would Tevin Jenkins not want to start at the $18 million a year range if the best guards are making 20 and the salary cap just got hiked up? I don't think that we're getting Tevin Jenkins for $8, $9, $10 million, guys. We're talking about paying Tevin Jenkins more than $1 million per game for a season, and he's not going to play them all. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
that's-
No way.
Is
Not
it-
with
it-
everything
it-
else.
It'd be
No.
different. It'd be different if you had another guy on your roster that you can fall back on. But this roster, you just don't have that. You have 4 guys under contract
Well,
this year.
What
You just
what
don't.
what if
Fair
what
enough.
if the mix here is you draft Tevin Jenkins, Kevin Zeitler, Drew Dahlman? I doubt that happens, but if that was to happen, then you draft a replacement for Tevin Jenkins in. You wouldn't draft a first round to be a backup, but let's say it's a second round, something crazy. You get Wyatt Milam. Are you okay
I'll
with
do
Tevin Jenkins getting
do it.
paid handsomely if you have a fallback option in that sense?
That handsomely word is a
Handsomely,
vague word.
yeah.
How much we talking, Karl? Handsomely
I just said
is that's-
$18.5 million a year.
No, I
Is
wouldn't.
No,
anybody going
no,
to pay him 18
no,
million? I
no.
mean, honestly.
Plank,
No.
when Tevin Jenkins signs an $18 million a year contract for the Detroit Lions, I don't want to be the first to tell you that would happen, but
No, hell no. No. We
I'd
cannot
rather
do
the
that.
Lions sign Tevin as opposed to Garrett. That's not the same side of the ball, but that's so if we don't feel because of his, it's not like every team's looking out there and having to find out how many games he played. Everybody knows. Is anybody, if you don't feel the Bears who know him and love him aren't willing for 18 mil, who is? That's my question. I don't know that anybody's willing to pay him 18.
well, if
that's a
someone
lot of
was to
money.
see the tape,
It is.
look at the body of work in the sense of his injuries, right? Maybe they say, wow, these injuries are just unlucky. They're not linked or anything like that. I do think that someone is going to be willing to gamble on Tevin Jenkins, especially a team who has a good, not great offensive line that wants to take that next step. Because in 2022, 2023, Tevin Jenkins, in my opinion, flashed all-pro potential.
Yeah,
I was
he's a top
very
three guard.
I was very bullish on him. I was very of the camp of signing him before the 2024 season started, as long as it wasn't an astronomical contract. But he's proven that even if he gets paid or not, he's not going to play for you, and that really scares me, guys.
Yeah,
Are
because
you
you got to
looking
also
to
think
pay-
that the flip side of him actually getting healthy. Like, you can let him go and he can actually be healthy for whatever team he plays with next year or whatever. That's scary as hell. Like, that's always a thing. Like, he can leave here and just be fine. Like, that's tough, man. That's a hell of a thing to lose.
What do you got, Plank?
So you're saying if not Tev at 18, are you willing to pay Zeitler at 18?
I don't think that Zeitler would get $18 million because he's older.
Age. Yeah, he's 34.
Tevin Jenkins is young, and again, in my opinion, he's flashed the all-pro potential. So you're not only paying money for a good player, but for the future as well, right? You would have to think that Tevin Jenkins could probably improve. But I think that we've seen the best of Kevin Zeitler, but that's a good player. You know what you're getting. And I think with a team that needs to replace 5 players on the interior offensive line across your starters and secondary players, Kevin Zeitler as a stopgap is a no-brainer, especially a
He's a
guy
good
who's
1 or
coming
2
from
year
the
band.
same scheme. Yeah, you've got a new head coach with familiarity and a position group that has question marks. I think Kevin Zeitler is the no-brainer.
He's a veteran and you draft. It's about development. I think that us as Bears fans, we really do not understand what development means. We haven't had it.
Yeah.
So it's about if we
You
get
would know better than
Zeitler-
me, too. Yeah.
If we get Zeitler in there, well, I don't want to go back. I'm so sick. And I lived that era. I was alive at that. I was 14 years old in the 85 year. But what was solid about 85? The offensive line. Offensive line. And so that's what it's not like I'm a genius. I'm not the first guy to see it. It's offensive line and development. So I'm not against bringing in Zeitler and still drafting for developmental pieces. Now, I'm not looking for a guy who's a project. I'm saying a good guy who maybe needs a year to set and watch and have great veterans to develop them.
So what
Yeah,
if
you
you
have
fell
to
back?
front load him a deal. Like, I would front load him like a 2-year deal or something, man, and draft someone to replace him. Like, that's how you do that. You keep Caleb on his feet, keep him familiar with a guy that's great when he's healthy, and you bring in a young boy to grow behind Tevin and let him go after a year or two. Like, but that's it. Like, I would do that. That'd be the best thing to do if you don't want to get rid of him.
So
Front load him and get someone else.
how would you guys feel about falling back in the draft and getting Tyler Booker?
So that was the question I wanted to ask you guys next is how would we address it? So good on you for that, Nick. Just from a vacuum, there's only a handful of players that I'd be comfortable with the Bears drafting at 10th overall. I don't know if it's Ashton Genty. I know for a fact it's Mason Graham. But outside of that, man, like I think that this draft is primed and ready to trade back. Now, Nick, how far back can we trade back to still get Tyler Booker? Because I can promise you he won't get past the Texans at 25.
I think 16 to 18 is probably your range and where you want to get him.
So I've done multiple trade backs where that's with the Bengals and the Seahawks. Are we talking about adding a second-round pick?
Yeah, moving up to 10.
From 10 to 18, we move back.
Yeah.
And pick up a second?
You also have to take into account who's available when we're trading back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big if.
Not even for the Bears. You trade up. It takes two to tango. So who's available for whatever player? I'm telling you, if the Raiders go running back at 6, whether that's Genty or possibly O'Marion Hampton, that would be nuts. We're talking about a feeding frenzy for these running backs, and I wanted to get into kind of how the spectacle these kids put on earlier today.
Yeah, they went crazy today.
I think that I could definitely see a team trading up 210 to draft Ashton Genty if he's available there. Could only be the Cowboys. If you go from 10 to 12, you're not going to get much. No. But I'm also very of the camp that the Chargers are going to need a running back. I know that head coach very well. They want a running back that's going to be able to run their offense. That's Ashton Genty. That's O'Marion Hampton. So I don't know if I want to go back all the way to 22, but...
Yeah. No, I agree.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. Makes sense.
See, the thing with the Cowboys is you can play Jerry Jones against himself, though. He's been known to get very aggressive. And...
Hold on. I want you to stop right there. Are you talking about like calling Jerry Jones and saying that, "Hi Jerry, I'm your son," things like that? Like you're trying to do mind games to the guy?
No.
Take advantage of the dementia? I'm sorry to the Jones family.
I mean, you're sitting at 10. Genty's not off the board yet. Let's say Hampton did go at 6 or, wherever else he goes before us. I could see the Cowboys coming up and saying, we want to solidify before anybody else comes and grabs him. I'll give you a third round. They'll probably, they'll say, hey, let's give you a third round pick. I mean, we did it with
the problem with the third round.
A spot back.
Are you familiar with Ryan Poles' third round draft picks?
Very bad.
They're terrible.
They are terrible.
If you're talking about going from 10 to 12 and you get a third, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, because you got a fourth from the Eagles a year later, not even that same draft for them going up to get Jalen Carter, even though they didn't have to.
Yeah, that was a big-time gentleman's agreement, and I don't know what the fourth-round pick was. It felt like it was later on in the draft, too. But
no, it was a next year's draft. It wasn't even that same draft. It was a next draft.
Right, and then I'm sure they went to... That was probably the year they lost to the Buccaneers in the playoffs. So
I think so, yeah.
Essentially the 25th pick of the fourth round. Like, that's not that much, but...
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could definitely see a run on these running backs, though, with how great of a day they had today, and a lot of them are shooting up the boards. You could definitely see something like that, but... There's a lot of running backs that look great, man. That's the irony of it. Is there a lot of them
That's the beauty
great.
of it. It's the beauty of it not taking a running back at 10 though.
Right.
Like if you're looking at it and seeing Genty's not there, and you see and you get what you want at 10, and you can get you a running back the third round. Like you got it, like it's nothing or a second.
Jenkins
like
looks
they're
great.
there. You don't have to
great.
reach
Trayvon
for a running
Henderson.
back. Yeah, you don't have to reach. Let's not reach.
No, you don't have to.
Exactly. The drop off. I don't know. I don't think the drop off is enough to justify having to take a running back at 10, honestly.
Right.
The drop off in the quality of these backs?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know Genty is what he is in college, and I'm not going to even speculate that he won't translate to the NFL. But is the drop off between Genty and Omron or whomever that big of a difference to have to reach at 10?
No, I agree. I just think that you can find a guy who can give you more than more than average numbers.
Yeah.
In the third, or even you could even fall back and grab a guy in the second. You could take Trayvon Henderson. You could take Quinton Judkins. You could take Caleb Johnson.
That's where I kind of want to explain is that after the spectacle today, like again something that's a bit taboo, you could see 3 running backs go in the first round. I would not be surprised. So now we're talking about guys like Quinton Judkins and Caleb Johnson actually being pushed up because they'd all be done in round 1. And if you're Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles and you're sitting at the, going into the day 2 of the draft, you're talking with each other like, man, we really wanted a running back and it went higher than we expected. Now, what are you at 39 and you're going to have to trade up to get a running back as soon as the day 2 draft starts? That seems a bit scary. I guess the last thing regarding that too is, and Nick, you mentioned this about how the Lions drafted Gibbs. The Lions, I think, traded back into the first round to get him.
No. They went from 6 to 12, and then took him at 12.
Okay.
Yep.
Because the Cardinals traded back into the first round to get Paris Johnson at 6.
Yes.
Right? Or they did something, or it was the I forget how that even happened.
We'll have to iron out those details, but the question I wanted to ask you guys is especially after a trade down, whatever situation you want to conjure up, would you be frustrated if the Bears traded up back into the first round to draft a running back?
Depends on what they had to give up.
Yeah.
Let's say the net is only like a third or fourth round pick, right? So you trade back from 10 to 18, you get Tyler Booker and you have a second, but then you have to package a couple seconds to move back into the first. And you're netting like a third or fourth round pick.
Back in the first though.
But I'm asking, how would you feel if you did?
It's hard to say because it depends on who's there. It's hard. I don't think there's not a lot of players that I think are going to fall to that point where you're going to need to have to, because I've been seeing Dane Brugler, who does the Beast, talk about how the players from I think pick 20 to I think
60
35 or 60, 20 to 60 are kind of in the same stratosphere. And now how much that is true, I have no idea. It depends on what the players are going to look like once they're on their teams, and this and that is a lot more stuff that needs to get ironed out. But I don't think there's really that many players that if Genty falls, I'm cool. Trade up back into the first. Go ahead. But there's really not that many players that are going to fall as far as that I can confidently say that is worth giving up what needs to be given to move back into the first.
We're talking about Omarion Hampton being a very rogue 6th overall draft pick for the Raiders, man. If Omarion Hampton's there sitting in the 20s after we pick up an offensive lineman after we trade it down, I'm banging the table for that, man.
I don't see the Raiders needing a running back right now. I don't. They need a lot
more.
Well,
let me be the first to tell you, Chip Kelly, the former offensive coordinator for the team that I will not name, he got hired by the Raiders, and that team I'm not naming is Ohio State. That's the context.
For Judkins or Travion Henderson in the second.
They are not getting past 37. I will bet your social security number on the black market. That's what's going to happen. They will draft a running back there.
They might bank on Judkins or Travion Henderson being there in the second round, which I
right,
think
and they're going to go before the Bears pick at 39. So now we're talking about a logjam of running backs.
But then you're also left with one of the two.
No, Travion Henderson could be a first-round pick for the Minnesota Vikings. Like this is getting real. You saw those numbers. These kids are freak. It was like a freak show, like the carnival. Just a total freak show today at the combine. These running backs are special, man.
And the way that Saquon's been performing in the playoffs and the Super Bowl and the Detroit Lions with their Sonic and
take that to the next level, G. Walker.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, these guys were the offenses for their respective teams. I understand they're free agent acquisitions, but
you got to get one, bro.
This is a special running back draft.
I had a fun stat. I don't know if you guys knew this about
totally
Genty.
Agree.
What's that, Nick?
Genty, granted, he did play in the Mountain West. Not a great,
it's not Power 5. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's not. It's not the SEC. It's not the Big Ten. It's just not. He had 1,970 yards after contact, which is the most in FBS history.
Do you know what my favorite comparison for Ashton Genty is right now?
That matters, man. That matters.
I have heard Ashton Genty compared to a fast version of Maurice Jones-Drew, the former bowling ball with knives that played for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who made the comparison?
Who made the comparison?
I'm not sure. Did you make it?
No, it's conspiracy that Bieniemy made the comparison because he did coach MJD back at what college did MJD go to?
Wow, I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but they were talking about how an unnamed source talked about comparing Genty to Maurice Jones-Drew. And
Bieniemy would be the type of guy to pump that out. Yeah. Okay, so if we've got that high praise, it sounds like our football team and our coaching staff wants to go running back.
I just don't think.
And they met with him too, man. And they already met with him. They have a top
30. They scheduled a top 30 with him. Jeremy Fowler came on.
1,900 yards after contact, bro.
1970.
You got my attention with that.
Yep.
You got my attention with that. I came front. That matters.
So here,
our offensive line is trash. That's trash.
Funner stat about that is if only the yards after contact were counted, he still would have led the nation by 229 yards.
Exactly. Like, this is a special running back. The only question is his competition.
Thanks, Nick. That's what I was asking.
Yep.
Let me be the first to tell you, if Ashton Genty had the season that he had on USC,
Ohio
Michigan.
State, Michigan,
Yeah.
Oh my
He's a
God,
top
Ohio
five pick.
State, if
He's a top
he
five pick.
won
Right.
the Natty, top 5,
I think you could
This-
talk about
this-
Saquon Barkley comparisons.
you're talking about first overall pick, in my opinion, because of how
Second, yeah.
weak
Or
this
like
quarterback
Saquon at the
draft
second.
is. Yeah, exactly. You know, Abdul Carter won, whatever the case is. But I still think you have to bank on the production, bank on what you're seeing on film.
Yeah.
He's a beast. It's just, can you afford to take a running back, regardless of who it is, that high? I don't think you can. But a guy like Omarion Hampton, who you can run your entire offense through, if you're able to get him at the end of the first, top of the second, you would be lucky to be able to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Because
no, I agree.
as I put a comment on from Cliff in the chat. Well, guys, by the way, you guys in chat tonight are just fantastic. There's so many people enjoying the stream right now, so thank you guys so very much for that.
Thank you.
I can't find it, Cliff. Something about how in 2025 running backs are the pet rock that everyone wants.
Yeah.
So I've read the comment. That's just what it is, man. Boy,
Here,
don't.
can I ask you guys each a question?
Go for it.
Who's your draft crush? Don't care what pick. Don't care what pick he would be.
I can go last.
I'm just
I'm
curious.
gonna
Blake,
go.
or G-Walk. Go ahead. Whoever wants to go first.
You know what,
I
man?
just
As much
want to know.
as much as I like Ben Johnson, as much as I want to see him pick a stud, somebody at the offensive line at 10, I'm thinking about that guy Pierce, man. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
Pierce.
Yeah.
Even though he's defense, I'm thinking about that one, bro. Like I don't know if he's there. I like Pierce. I like Pierce a
His
lot.
measurables are pretty crazy. Pretty close to Montez Sweat.
Yeah,
Closer than Montez
I
Sweat,
like
actually,
Pierce.
too.
And I want to go offensive line, but if Pierce is there,
I think you got to go either way. You got to do something in the trenches. It doesn't matter what side it is. I think
That's
the first two
yeah.
picks have to be something lineman. Something
yes,
lineman.
yes. So we all agree that it can't be running back, but it got to be trenches.
Trenches.
Either way.
I hate to say it, but yeah, I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I have
like
been
it.
really solid on this since this before last year's draft, right? When knowing that we'd have Carolina's pick, I've always said that in 2024, the 2025 draft, the Chicago Bears with their first 3 picks, 2 of those picks have to be linemen,
Yeah.
2 offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, or any combination of the 2. Whether it's picks 10 and 41, 39 and 41, I don't know if I care, but you do have to severely invest in the trenches. Chad
But they have
Speaker,
to be
I would
quality
love a
players,
Walter
though.
Nolan.
They have to be quality players. Though. You can't just be, throwing shit on the wall and seeing what sticks. They have to be
Yeah.
quality players.
That's why I hate when people say that they don't like best pick available. I kick back and say I think that best pick available is the only thing that you
Always-
can do.
Yeah, the only option. Yeah.
Especially at 10, and you have to take your
At
needs into
10, yeah.
consideration. You have to take your needs into consideration. If the Bears take Luther Burden at 10 this year, then maybe I'll make my jugular do a dance. But genuinely, I mean, these guys, they have to invest in the trenches, and lucky for us, the defensive line, defensive end, offensive line, not so much, but it's very deep. So I
But
would
that's where
love
you
for
can
them
make-
to add a
that's where some
second round
people
pick
can make
too.
the argument that you can wait till the second or third round to take
Exactly.
a defensive lineman.
Because you're getting a player
Okay.
maybe at 39 that in another draft would get drafted at 20th overall because that's how deep this class is.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's true.
I think if you're drafting for need at 10, you're drafting with a hand tied behind your back.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
What
but
about you?
Pierce,
What's your
though.
draft crush?
Myself?
Or whoever wants to go.
I'll get it out of the way. This is, I wouldn't call it taboo, but it's a player who I'm kind of wanting that the Bears get their hands on. It'd be awkward, and I don't know how it'd work. But I love Jaden Blue, man. He, I think, had the second highest 40-yard dash time. And I watched him a couple years ago, and then I'm sure he had a good game against Michigan this past year. I mean, Jaden Blue is a phenomenal running back, and my comp for him is Alvin Kamara. Just on style. Has nothing to do with the measurables. But I don't think that he and DeAndre Swift are a good fit together. So, in the same breath, too, now that I'm talking about it out loud, maybe not so much as a pass receiver, but R.J. Harvey, same thing out of UCF, the running back. That kid can fly, and he is a damn good football player. But again, he just reminds me of the same style as DeAndre Swift, and they cannot have that. That's why I'm so big on Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, Trayvon Henderson. These guys are the exact opposite of a running back as DeAndre Swift, and I think that they would be able to thrive under a Bears team that has a better staff, hopefully a better offensive line, and would be able to get spelled by DeAndre Swift. I think they would go hand in hand. Plank, have you gotten into any draft crushes of yours?
I don't have a crush. I'm just trenches. That's where I'm at. Anybody, I want a starter or quality in offensive or defensive line. But and I'm sorry for that. I have no more input than that. But I
No,
really
that's
don't
fine.
have any
Well, let me
crushes. I really
let,
don't.
let me ask you a philosophy question then. If the guard was good enough, would you be happy drafting a guard at 10th overall?
Whoa.
Here, I don't.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
if you've got a player in mind, me personally, I could care less what round you draft him in. I don't care. I simply don't care. If he's good enough to be a starter, it's what you need. Again, I don't want to get caught up in, hey, we've got these spots to fill, regardless who's the best player available. I'm not really saying that. But I don't care if we do. And we drafted Darnell Wright at 10 in the first round. And I know I hear a lot of people saying you do not draft offensive linemen in the first round. I don't care. I don't care.
The
I
the
really
problem
don't.
the problem, Plank, is that if you look at the All Pro list, the NFL saying these are the best players in the NFL at their positions. The tackle position, they're essentially always a top 10 pick. That's just the
Yeah.
nature of the beast. And that's why Darnell Wright went so high, because he is a tackle, whether it's protecting the blind side or not. Still
And
a
the
tackle, still very important. But a
Darnell
guard,
would have won at 9. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not even, he went at 10, but he
Yeah.
would have went at 9. I mean, I'm not against it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I think that your philosophy is actually very valid, and I like it. It's just I don't think that you can take a guard in front of a player at a better position that is maybe an equal playing level. So if
On
Will Campbell is
defensive line,
there, but you
yeah.
also have a James Pierce who's an edge rusher, you might actually want to draft the edge rusher ahead of the guard, because it's harder to acquire those guys, and
Yes.
you need two edge rushers
Yeah.
as well. So
Well, and then
Yeah.
in that case, you go which is deeper, O line talent deeper than D line or edge. Then that's why you would go defense. I agree.
yeah, and in this class specifically, I believe the moral of the story is that the edge rushers are not as deep as the interior offensive linemen, but they're top end. Very, very good players towards the top. James Pierce. I can't think. There's so many of them. I mentioned Shamar Stewart, but he's not a chance to go.
Mike Green.
Yeah, Michael Williams. There's a bunch of athletic freaks as well that are not as much of a freak as Shamar Stewart, but these guys, from a measurable standpoint, they went great.
Yeah, and I won't be surprised if we went past rush, man. Just like you said, that top end is it's crazy to get at 10. If we can get one, like you're saying, we probably got to do it and get whatever else after that, man. Because I hate to pass up on another pass rush to go with Montez Sweat if we can get one at 10.
Yeah, I agree.
And the thing is that once Montez Sweat contract expires, you're not going to pay them both. And if you get it lined up properly, you'd be able to start paying your draft pick Montez Sweat's salary, and then you just go back into the vicious cycle. Draft his running mate, rinse and repeat. So it's a good idea, and especially if they can get their hands on a good one. When we're talking about James Pierce out of Tennessee, though, he's got some off-the-field stuff that makes me a little bit nervous. And I don't know if hand in hand with not taking a risk at 10 from a project car, you don't want a guy with character concerns in the top 10, man. In my opinion.
We don't want that like Jalen Carter over there with the Eagles. We don't want to miss that again, huh? All right.
Like I said earlier, let's get a head coach and quarterback pairing who have won a playoff game before we start taking guys with some off the field issues. In my opinion,
You have to have the foundation in place to be able to develop anybody, but especially somebody like that may show problems, right?
You guys don't
Coming
think
out of
Dennis Allen's that disciplinarian?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the track record for it. I'd be an idiot to say otherwise. I mean, it's that simple. And I believe in Dennis Allen, and not just him, but the coaches that Ben Johnson has put around to be able, let's put it this way, the foundation to develop players is set, in my opinion.
He got a legion of goons, man. We got to start calling the legion of goons over there. Yes, the legion of goons over there.
Or we can just start calling it the black and blue division again, or the monsters of the midway. That's what I mean. Actually, monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's get
I
some
don't know
new
if we can
offensive and
pass up that.
defensive linemen. I'm all for that.
I agree.
Yeah, I'll take a pass rush. I'll take a pass rush for sure. I actually love that. I would want to see Ben Johnson to do that. I really want to see that. That's more intriguing than let's just get the offensive. Let's see if that pass rush is there.
I think the biggest vibe that I get from Ben Johnson is that he just wants to win, and it doesn't matter who's on his roster. It really doesn't
that's
matter.
true.
I think he's open to just taking anybody who makes his football team a better football team at the end of the day.
He's not
Yeah, I
stuck
totally agree with
on,
Smash.
I'm not the first to say it. It gets oversaid. He's not a round peg in a square hole kind of guy. He's just not. The dude is humble. There's a difference. He's humble. It's not me. Hey, this is my offense. You'll conform to this or you'll be gone. It's like, what players do we have? Quarterback central, and then let's expand from there. But it's about building around the talent that is currently on the team or, incoming parts. That's Ben Johnson, I feel.
And I agree with you, Plank, just because he's so open to, and what Nick was saying, he just wants to win. So that makes me give really a possibility, like, man, we can really get a dope-ass pass rusher at 10. For someone who loves defense, and I know what we need, like, he's open. He's willing
to give up testicles for a win.
Yeah.
For the Super Bowls, right? I mean, 10 Super Bowls, but hey, that's cool.
Yeah. So
Nick, do you remember exactly what Caleb Williams said on the interview he did with Big Cat? Was it killing people? He was willing to kill someone for a Super Bowl?
The question was, would you press a button if it killed one random Bears fan to win a Super Bowl?
And then he
Big
throws
Cat said,
himself.
If it's me, it's okay.
Yeah, he's always the sacrifice. He asked Caleb that. He asked Ben Johnson that. And he's always the sacrificial lamb. So God love him, because I don't want to be that lamb. I want to see it. I want to be alive.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I don't remember what he said though. Unfortunately.
It was something about something. Ben went to how about a body part, and then it went from there.
Yeah,
and then I believe it was.
He's like, I got 3 kids. I'll give up my testicles.
Yeah, I've already got 3 children. And I think it was 2 testicles for 10 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Yo, his personality, man, he's a funny dude. Just to see how he talks and how analytical he is, how humorous he is, and how intense he is. He gives you a gem every time he's on an interview. Like he said, no rock, no block, baby.
Yes.
No rock, no block.
And this dude here, his intelligence level. No, don't be, because that's exactly what he said, and I loved it. He said, talked about DJ Moore is probably the yak. He's the best yak guy in the game, but I don't feel the rest of the NFL knows it. And that's his way of saying, hey, you coach better, you get better out of it. No rock or no block, no rock. So what I was getting at is this dude's intelligence level is off the scale, but yet most of the times you get somebody with that kind of intellectual, you don't get, he's not able to, I don't want to say talk down, he's not able to relate to people, or they're not able to relate to people who are not at that intelligence level, right? Ben Johnson, I feel, is at that intelligence level, but you don't know that he's at that intelligence level. He can relate to each and every one as an individual. That's the impression I get on a short time.
Yeah, and also, he pretty much put it out there like, hey, what are you willing to do to win? I'll give up a testicle. That let everybody on the team know how intense I am about winning. So he's been talking to the team, you know what I mean, without talking to the team before he even got there, right? So these interviews, he's letting these guys know, like, man, I'm willing to do anything to win. So what are y'all ready to do? I love it.
I mean, it's hilarious because all I heard on the offseason was how much of a nerd he was and how much of like a people person he wasn't. Never showed emotion.
That's probably from the wave of Detroit Lions podcasters that entered into the world because the Lions were finally winning for the first time in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. So they're like, oh, this Ben Johnson guy's pretty good. Let's just slander him. I don't know, man. Ben Johnson feels like the real deal to me.
He does.
He's hilarious, man. He's hilarious.
He is.
He's authentic.
I didn't hire a bunch of friends.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the very first thing they showed of him walking into Hallis Hall, everybody get back to work, that was gold. And now look, it was gold to me. It wasn't nearly as good as Duval. But hey, we'll take what we can get.
Right. Or when he told Caleb to his face, look, I like you, Caleb. I think you're great, but it's going to take more than you to win. I was like, yo, this dude is, yo,
He
that
knows how
was
to command a room.
that was dope.
That's for sure.
That was
And then
dope.
he's reported to have told Caleb, your success is my success.
Yeah,
It's not the other way around. This is my playbook. You'll either fit to it or gone. Don't care about that. It's wisdom, okay? Because he has foresight. That's wisdom.
And he's a psychopath because he stayed in the division. Like, he could have ran. He left and said, you know what? I'm going to stay in this division and whoop y'all ass, bro.
Yeah.
Twice a year. That sold me right there. I was like, he's crazy. And I love it. I love a psychopath. I love it. I wanted Jim Harbaugh. We didn't get him as a crazy guy, but it looked like we got our crazy guy anyway. So let's go Chicago Bend, baby. Let's go.
His whole priority is tunnel vision, score as many points as you can until he was talking about Campbell tells me we've done enough. Okay, we're Chicago Bears fans. This dude is going to hold people. It's not going to be, oh, hey, we're up 14 points. Let's put a prevent defense in. Let's lay back on this. Let's not do what's been working for us the entire game. Let's retreat. That's not this dude. This dude is, you're blue in the face. That's cool. I'm going to keep strangling you. That's his mentality.
I feel like there's a key difference between Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell, though. I feel like Dan Campbell is genuinely a rah-rah guy in the sense that I don't want to say he doesn't know what he's doing, but I feel like Ben Johnson has more of like a quiet confidence, right? Like to what Plank is saying, he's going to be the type of guy who's going to continue to do what's working until you prove that you can stop it. Yeah. And if you're hitting a 14-yard dig route to DJ Moore, do it 10 times in a game. I don't care. Stop it. Finally, you took that guy out of the box. Okay, now let's smash it down your throat with the running back. So that's what I like. And Plank, I think you nailed it spot on.
See, the thing of it is, Ben Johnson doesn't care if he beats you with a T formation. Does not care. He's beating you.
Oh, boy.
He's beating you, right.
Yeah, this is not going to be a Nagy that comes in and say, I wasn't hired to run the ball. No, you were hired to win.
Win the football game. Absolutely. Thank you.
Say it again, Plank. Say we hired to what? You were hired to win. I love it.
Win. That's what you were hired to do. And I'll be nice. I don't care what it took to win. I don't care. I don't care if Caleb throws 3 yards in a game and we run it down their throat and defense just kills it. Not that Caleb can't. What I'm getting at is this. It's about winning. That's what it's about.
Right.
What is 2 years and it was Mac Jones, right? 2 years ago, his rookie season. Oh, it's been longer than that. I think it was his rookie season. One game,
5 years ago,
he had something stupid like 13 yards passing.
2 yards, I think.
But won the game.
Passing. Yeah.
I think there was a special circumstance applied to that. I think that was a very, very windy football game. But I hear you.
It's
snow game
about
against
winning.
the Bills.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you're spot on there. I totally agree with you. I'm just very curious by Artur's comments just regarding about how Ben Johnson, he says, fucked us in the playoffs with questionable calls. I think that Ben Johnson and that offense actually put up a lot of points, and it was a valiant effort. It was your defense. You guys had several third stringers starting, and quite literally, you gave up more points than you scored. I think if you're Ben Johnson and you put that playoff performance out there, I think you're happy with it. And I don't think the world of Jared Goff. Maybe Jared Goff got that concussion when he got that interception thrown. Jared Goff didn't have a good game, man.
Yeah, that's what you need to put the onus on. Jared Goff. He has a tendency to throw multiple interceptions during games, bro.
You see it against the Bears.
Right.
Yeah, we're talking about Jared Goof.
Jared.
I got you. I'm sorry.
No, man, it's true, man. And people want to blame everybody but the quarterback. Like, come on, bro. We all watched him throw multiple picks that game, bro. Like, you don't win a game throwing multiple interceptions. Like, that's not usually how that goes, like, at all. You guys put up 30 points, bro. That's enough to win a game. And your quarterback didn't help.
And quite a lot of yardage, 500 plus yards, something like that.
And your defense wet the bed, bro. So don't blame Ben. He couldn't wait to get the hell away from Jared Goff. You see him taking shots at Jared Goff in interviews right now, so he's never been around that type
I was
of
just about to ask that. I didn't find them as disrespectful comments.
I mean,
He was just saying that Caleb Williams is a better athlete outside of the pocket than Jared Goff. Well, water's wet and the sky is blue. Of course that's true. That's not
Ben
insult.
Johnson seems to be a little bit petty. He's a competitive, petty person.
I know, Plank. I know.
Ben Johnson's a little bit petty, man, and I can tell a petty person. He's crazy, he's competitive, but he's petty. And those are little shots at Goff. Like, you better believe it was.
He had that one in the press conference, his introductory press conference. He said, "Man, I love beating Detroit or Green Bay. I know how to beat Green Bay."
Yeah.
So I hear you, Walker. You're not wrong.
Eberflus with the timeoup. Like, come on, bro. He's sending shots at
I love that one.
Green Bay. He's sending shots at Jared Goff. Like, yo, he's letting y'all know, like, yo, it's up and it's on. Can't wait.
It's the way he lets it known that, hey, it was inadequacies, but he doesn't come right out and say, hey, look, that was stupid. And he'll say, I won't speak to what was before, but this is what we're going to do moving forward.
Thank you, Foster.
Which is speaking about what happened before, but in a very classy way.
Yeah.
He wasn't Sean Payton coming out and talking. I can't even remember the dude from Green Bay that was the head coach.
Mike McCarthy?
No. Went to Denver. He wasn't a head coach with Green Bay.
Nathaniel Hackett. Thanks, Nick.
Yes, thank you, Nathaniel Hackett. Where, he comes right out. Sean Payton come right out. This dude, I'm paraphrasing, is an idiot, a blooming idiot. Whereas Ben Johnson is saying it in a nice way, but saying the same thing, really.
He's smart, man. He's smart. He's one of those people that's going to talk a little. Yeah, he's going to talk that shit, but then at the same time, it's going to sound like, oh, he's so nice, but he's really he's
talking that shit.
Yeah, he's talking that shit on the low. Yeah. Better pay attention. For real.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the St. Brown podcast that they were talking about Ben Johnson being hired to the Bears and everything like that. And Amon-Ra said that he was texting with him and he said, man, we're going to fuck you up. And Ben Johnson said, nah, I'm going to fuck you up.
Fuck you up. Man, right. I saw that.
He's competitive, man. He's fucking
and that's what
competitive.
We want.
Yeah, I do think that Dan Campbell left an impression on him in a good way. Like, if he was competitive, which I'm sure he was, I think that got magnified. And I'm very happy. Shorty, the great host for Bears Country Productions on the Thursday show, he said, I would love for the Lions to win the Super Bowl. If Ben Johnson did win the Super Bowl, do you think he'd be so adamant to come to a team and try and win it himself? I think that we'd be getting a less version of Ben Johnson. I'm very happy that the Lions didn't win the Super Bowl. Ben Johnson's very hungry. He's starving, and he wants to do it against the team that everyone thought should have done it. If he's able to resurrect the Bears to do that before the Lions, talk about building a statue, man. That would be legendary.
And he wasn't my first choice as a head coach.
I'll be honest. He wasn't mine either.
He wasn't my first choice, but the fact that he stayed in the division, bro, and I was like, yo, it's crazy. This is what you need. This is what we need. He didn't run away from the division. I
think it's a smart move for him.
Yeah, he knew what he was into. He knows this division.
He's got a 4-game head start. Technically a 6-game because he knows the Lions. Like, this is a no-brainer for him.
Yeah, he knew. If we call this a pile of dog dung, he looked at the pile and deliberately stepped into it. He's willing to clean his shoes off. He is where he wants to be.
That's awesome.
Right. That's exactly what he did. It was like, hey, it's up. And I'm like, he hasn't put anything out there on the field yet, but staying in this division with it's the best division in football, and it's the toughest division. He was like, nope, I'm not running. I'm not scared. Let's go through that door instead of trying to leave it. I'm like, you know what? Let's go. I'm with you, man.
I agree.
That's good or bad. That's exactly the way I approach things. If you're going to come into me head on, I'm coming to you head on. I know what I'm getting into. I see it. I am not backing away. I chose this division for this very same reason.
The best way to beat a bully.
Yes.
Is to beat a bully, right?
That's right.
Beat a man, you got to beat the man.
You can't run. So I love it.
That's what the Chiefs did. The Chiefs beat the Patriots, made Tom Brady leave. They knocked them off, and now the Chiefs are the villains. So I hear you.
I want to be that team that everybody's sick of seeing win, right? I think we all do. The only crap talk you've got about them is the Bears win too much. Boo-hoo. That's what I want to be. That's why
I would love that. Plank, if the Bears won Super Bowl 41, as a Bears fan, I'd be happy. I just want to see one. I know, dude. I just want one. I just want one.
No, you do want one, right? It does not stop there. I lived one. I don't know. I reckon I'm older than any of you guys that's here, right?
We'll verify later, but I'm pretty sure.
I don't want to brag, but I'm 54. No, but so I 14 years old, the 85 season. I turned 15 when we won the Super Bowl. One is great. Everybody, the air, the atmosphere. I don't know how to say it. It was fantastic.
Electric.
Yes, electric. You've seen people that you didn't know was. I've never been that guy. To fault, actually, but you've seen people come out of the woodwork, just like, hey, Bears fans. It was great, but you want more than one. You do. I know what you're saying. You just want the one. But how's this? Let's put it on this. The Cubs. Everybody wanted a World Series. What was 100 years or damn near 100, maybe a little over 100.
Yeah.
So the Cubs fans got their World Series.
Yeah, we did.
Was that enough? No. Is it going to be another 100 years? I hope not. We'll see. But you want more than it. Let's put it this way: Super Bowls are Lay's potato chips. That's the way I'm going to look at it.
Can't just eat just one, huh?
That's right.
For sure. Yeah, man. Yeah.
I hear you. I don't know. Let's start with one. That would be a great starting point, but especially if you can do it with Ben Johnson, who's so young, and again, Caleb Williams, if you can win the Super Bowl on his rookie contract, you'd think he'd only be able to get better at that point, right? So hopefully the sky would be the limit. Nick, did I remember this correctly? Did you have to end up leaving here kind of somewhat shortly?
So.
Okay. Is there anything on your mind? Is there anything else in your mind as far as things you want to discuss? I feel like we didn't touch on the running backs in the draft too much, but that's okay. Anything else that kind of tickles your fancy?
Is there anybody you guys want to trade for?
Just as far as straight up players, we've talked about the Myles Garrett proposal. Another video where it's just copious amounts of hate. How can you suggest something like that? Plank, G. Walker, are you guys interested in a Myles Garrett or a Micah Parsons or anything like that?
Yes.
Can I throw out a name? Can I throw
Go
out
for
a
it.
name?
Yes. Go for it.
Somebody who's on the block? Jonathan Allen. If you don't land Mason Graham, and if you don't land a top flight defensive tackle, he's due, I think, $16 million this year.
Let me push back on that. We've seen Montez Sweat and Jonathan Allen play together. What did that result in? Not much.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I guess the question becomes, how much does he cost, right? I don't know what that.
He's $16 million this year.
No, not money. I'm sorry. Compensation wise, what do you have to trade away to get him? We're not talking about trading away a day 2 pick, are we? A second or third?
I'm talking about a fourth. He's 30 years old. He's due $16 million.
It reminds me of Deebo Samuel. Trade away a veteran who's not working out for a lot of money, and in return you get a couple of good years. I don't know, man. I'm not sure if I'm interested in that, though.
The reason why I wanted Myles Garrett so bad, because I don't know if it was true. I saw a rumor that Detroit wanted him, and he wanted Detroit. I said I would damn near do anything to get this dude out of my fucking division.
Well, from anybody,
I would give up damn near to get him out of my division, bro. Like, I do not care. Like, if we got to give up a first, a second, and maybe Tariq, who's a starter on that corner over there, I will give it up, man. But on the flip side, I would take Micah Parsons because he's a younger guy, 25 years old. I would probably prioritize
Micah's
that deal.
Going to cost a lot.
Yeah. Are you willing to pay 10th overall, 39th overall, and next year's first as a starting point?
Because then you owe him $160 million, $170 million.
Well, you dictate what you give him if we're talking. Oh, Parsons. No, Parsons. Yeah, that it probably is.
Parsons is going to dictate. He's going to want $30 million a year. It's just he's going to boil down to that. He's going to probably want a 5-year, $180 million.
So let me ask you this: so do you value a guy that's already been proven to come to your team and you spend the money, or do you want to not waste time, but wait on the developmental guys to come in and they'd be ready by year 3? Which would you prioritize?
I want Micah Parsons. I
Okay.
would love Micah Parsons. I just don't think this team is ready to compete at the levels where next year maybe I'd say, yeah, let's go, let's do it. But this team is so far away.
But
It's
how
so
can you
close
judge that
yet
if he's
so
coming
far
in
away.
right away? He's coming in right away with Montez Sweat over there and Billings and Dexter and all those guys. They'll get ready right away. Don't you think?
Yeah,
He will
I agree.
contribute to winning right away. Right away, he'll contribute to winning.
I agree. I think like Micah, he's a 15, 16 sack guy a season. He is.
Yeah.
He's put it on
Yeah.
tape. He's a game wrecker. It's like Khalil Mack when we traded for him. You had to compensate and plan for that specific player.
I agree.
I mean, it's just you're sinking a lot of capital. You're really tying yourself on the railroad and waiting for a train to come and hit you at that.
But what are the proposals though, Karl? Like, have we seen any proposals for what they wanted? Somebody
Miles Garrett.
I can look up what a mock.
Well, Micah,
would
it don't
be
matter.
asking
I know.
for.
Yeah, I haven't. I've seen what from Miles.
The Micah Parsons one is weird because the Bears could definitely say that the value is less than what the Cowboys would want because you have to pay him. But
Gotcha.
he's younger and he's still ascending, in my opinion, man. So I just don't know. I guess from a philosophy standpoint, like we saw what happened to the Bears in 2018. You got a really good player in Khalil Mack who had a fantastic all-pro type year. They almost won a playoff game. They should have won a playoff game, but they didn't. Maybe if they win that playoff game, they go to the Super Bowl. But it did not result in a Lombardi trophy. So I just don't think that the Chicago Bears are... The current Chicago Bears, in my opinion, are apples to oranges compared to the 2017 Bears going into 2018 because you're just not that one player away, man. I don't know. I don't think you can do it.
So what I'm seeing,
that's fair.
What I'm seeing from a couple different places is it's going to take a first, second, a third, and a player to get Micah, and then you have to pay him.
What's the player? What's the player?
There's two that I'm looking at right now. It's the Ravens are trading Zay Flowers, first, second, and third. A first, second this year, and a third next year for Micah.
And Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Say it out loud. Pro Bowl wide receiver, first, second, third round pick.
Micah Parsons is a Hall of Fame linebacker, edge rusher. I think you can warrant that he's
not if he gets injured. He's not. I mean, there's still a ways to go before he gets that jacket. In my opinion,
I don't know. Yeah, I agree, but he's still that guy. He's that guy on the field. He's the best player on the field at all times when he's on the field.
What you say, Plank?
So he is. We're talking still on Garrett, correct? Or are we talking Micah?
Micah Parsons.
Micah.
Okay, well, this translates what I was going to say about Garrett, but we're not one player away.
No, we're not.
Okay, I'm not. We're not one player away. We are not. He's going to make the team better, whether it be Micah or Myles Garrett, right?
Agreed.
It's stupidity to talk otherwise. They're going to make the team a better team. But where I'm at is, how much are we losing to gain this player? Myles Garrett is dominant. Because of his dominance, has Cleveland won more games? I'm sure they've won games because of him. I'm not saying that. Are they in the playoffs? Are they? And now maybe we can look at quarterbacks. We can look at all this other stuff. What I'm saying is the foundation's been laid for a solid team. I don't feel that reaching her team, what we have in draft capital, I don't feel that it's time for that. Look, Khalil Mack, when we got him, it was, to me, a reach. We weren't one player away at that time either. It doesn't take anything away from Khalil Mack.
That's true. I felt the same way.
Can I argue with you on that, though?
Yeah.
I think that without Cody Parkey, that team wins the Super Bowl.
Oh, it could be, and I don't know that anybody is going to argue.
No, of course, nobody. You're really never going to know. You're never going to
Yeah,
know. But I think
yeah,
Khalil Mack literally.
That's what we need AI for. I'm just kidding.
I think Khalil Mack literally catapulted that team. Now, granted, Vic Fangio's a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong. He's made that team what it was. Is because of him. That defense was number one because of him.
Yeah, and you had such good players outside of the Khalil Mack on the defensive line. Akeem Hicks was able to cause havoc. Your other first-round pick. I keep forgetting his name. Yeah, absolutely.
Harris,
Leonard Floyd. Was it Leonard? Leonard Floyd?
Yeah, Leonard Floyd. But that's
Eddie
because
Goldman,
of Khalil
Nichols.
Mack. That's because of Khalil Mack.
So it'd essentially be the same thing if we take a Michael or a Garrett. The thing is, people don't understand
it.
Like, what is the success rate? You can't see the success before you get there. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just because we got to 2 playoff games with Khalil Mack and their defense.
Yeah.
We got to the NFC Championship, but was it the NFC? Was that the NFC?
No, it was the divisional.
Divisional. So
we were the first. We were the first.
Got winning
What?
with that defense with those guys, but as far as
No, we were in the wild card round.
Oh, that was wild card. I'm sorry. You're right. It was wild card. But
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy to look at the parallels when you go back and look at 2018, second year quarterback, first year head coach,
right,
coming off an abysmal season the year before. And granted, I think that we were a little bit more set up for success at that time with how the roster was at that specific point in time than we are now. Granted, I know Caleb Williams is here compared to Mr. Trubisky being down here as a quarterback. He's miles ahead of him, no doubt about that. But that defensive line was already solid. You had Roy Robertson, you had Leonard Floyd, you had Bilal Nichols.
I'm sorry,
Eddie Goldman.
Eddie Goldman. That's a sneaky good player. That's a Pro Bowler, man. Like, that's a really
amazing.
good player.
That entire line was amazing. That entire season.
And there's still fragments of these players scattered across the NFL. Like, who's the guy? There's an interior defensive lineman for the Vikings. He plays often.
Kyrus Tonga.
No, yeah, Kyrus Tonga. I don't know if he was a part of the team.
Yeah, he was after.
So not him. But like, if you
Jonathan Bullard.
Yeah, Jonathan Bullard, that's one of those players. And there's a bunch of guys like that on Arizona as well. Like, it's so crazy how deep that line was, man. So, unfortunately, to me, what that screams is if you want to replicate 2018, you should not trade your assets away. You should build up the trenches, both on the offensive and defensive lines.
Who was number 99? I can't remember his name in that team that year. Number 99, Aaron Lynch.
Yeah, again, that's the type of player that the Bears need to add in free agency, and I'd be looking to next year, right? Because I see Brett Urban. He was a player too. Brett Urban is fantastic. Yes, he's fantastic for the Ravens.
The Ravens,
that's where you need to get quality veteran players that contribute and exceed expectations. That's when you're talking about winning Super Bowls. So the Bears are not there yet.
It's weird because I kind of want to. I don't want to try to replicate what the Commanders did last season, but they threw a bunch of one-year contracts to guys who came in and made a difference because they played with Dan Quinn. Agreed, Vic Fangio made that team work 110%. But just go throw a one-year contract at a couple guys. Go throw a year contract at a couple guys and see if it can pan out. It worked. It obviously worked for the Commanders. Granted, they had a lot of ties to Dan Quinn coming from the Cowboys. Dorrance Armstrong. Frankie Louvu coming from I forget what
Panthers.
Team Frankie Louvu was from. Panthers. There you go. I mean, you had a bunch of different makers on that team, just simply playing on a flyer deal, essentially. 1.2, 2.2, $3 million at the end of the day. So I wouldn't even be opposed to that. I wonder how much I want quality over quantity.
Yes, I do too. Do you remember how much cap space the Redskins had going into this year?
This year they have like 80 or 90 million. They're very high up there. They're like the second or third. They're right behind the Patriots, I think.
The Commanders. While we're talking about the Commanders and cap space, this and that, that is one team that set itself up for success very rapidly. I don't, and I'm
with
nobody.
new ownership.
Yeah, I don't. And look, again, I'm going to restate. I am no one. I don't see Commanders dropping off next season. Only time will tell, but I really don't see them dropping off next season.
You know what I have to say? It really depends on if anybody can figure out Kingsbury. If anybody can figure out how to stop that first read. I wouldn't even want to say that. I think Jaden's a great quarterback, and I'm not trying to slander him when I say this, but you saw that a lot of his passes were his first read.
He's 30 years old, man. That's why he's good. I didn't realize he was already 27 years old. Like,
he's old,
he was
man.
old as hell.
But I mean, his first read happened to just always be open. I mean, that's where a lot of their success came from. He threw behind the line of scrimmage a lot, and it worked. They had great blocking. They had great scheme. The offensive line played very well. I didn't think it was going to play as well as it did. I was going to honestly put them as one of the worst teams in the league going into the next year. Last year. But I mean, you time and time again see that offensive line gave him a pocket for a good 4 or 5 seconds where he's able to, once he's able to get off his first read, go through his progressions. And he's learning off of that, obviously, and the line is helping him. But I mean, it really just depends if anybody figures out Kingsbury. I thought he was going to get a head coaching job this season, and I thought that they would take a drop off because he was going to go somewhere. But after seeing
I think he would have been stupid to leave that situation with a young budding, quarterback that's ascending like that. That'd have been That'd have been dumb for him to
The
do.
difference there is if he was a guy who never had been a head coach, it would have been different. I think he would have taken the job had he have never been a head coach. But because he had the experience, seeing what he went through already, yeah.
They had the fifth
everybody's not a head
most
coach
cap
material,
space
man.
going into last year. So that says $24 million. That doesn't look like a lot of money to me. So I don't know if the Bears need to go that route of throwing one-year contracts at veterans and hoping something works. I think that they can use not only the additional cap space they have, but the fact that the salary cap went up. I think that they can be a lot more strategic and actually sign players for the now and for the later.
Yeah, definitely. Well, now you don't have to pay Jaden.
I don't want 1 year Band-Aids. If you're going to bring in a veteran or make it a bridge, okay, not a Band-Aid, we're not, I don't feel, we're not 1 year away. I don't feel that bringing in a guy for high price, whatever, big name guy for 1 year is going to solve anything. We need a bridge to start the developmental process. That's where I'm at, right or wrong. That's where I'm at.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Go for
Karl, do you mind?
it. Absolutely. No, not at all.
We're talking about keeping guys, you know what I mean? Like, how do you guys feel about Keenan Allen, man? Like, if there's a way, because I told people, you have to understand how inflation and economics work. The money, somebody said, oh, the money we paid him more is going to be more. Like, bro, the same money he pretty much got when we got here is going to be pretty much the same amount of money he has now. Based off taxes and inflation, it's the same amount of money. He's not making a huge amount of money, but where do you guys place the value on him being a security blanket for Caleb Williams, knowing Rome is still coming on his own, and knowing how DJ Moore can be as far as not being focused and not always blocking? You think?
Let me be the first to answer. I mean, I've seen so much Rome Odunze slander. I've seen the most grotesque, nasty things said about the kid. I'm at the point where just from that alone, I don't want Keenan Allen back and taking any sort of reps away from Rome Odunze, because I need you guys to know how good this wide receiver is, man.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if he's back for 13 to 15 million and willing to take a back seat and, not getting as many snaps and reps that he's used to, I'd say, yeah, why not?
He was the consistent chain mover. He was moving the chains more than any receiver we had this year, man.
But on the flip side, we saw Cole Kmet get, abandoned. We hardly used him. And again, we're talking about a top 10 pick who's being underutilized. I think it's time to let Rome Odunze shine.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't think that, because I've seen the numbers where Rome Odunze actually was targeted the most times as a third wide receiver. Like, Rome has his own ups and downs he has to go through and get better. So
because
we can't
playing wide receiver in the NFL is hard, especially with a rookie quarterback.
More reps and more targets.
Yeah.
So the way you're going to get better is more.
And from a philosophy standpoint, what do you want your third wide receiver doing? Do you want him to be the guy that you're looking for on third down and fourth down? I want my third wide receiver to be the deep ball guy.
Yeah. Speed.
Yeah.
Because
I would much rather add speed to this offense than Keenan Allen. Even if Keenan Allen said, fuck it, I'll play for $5 million. I don't know if I want him on the team regardless of anything. Now, do I think he'll take a hometown discount or something like that? No. I think he's going to find himself back on the Chargers. Or maybe now the 49ers, now that they traded away Deebo Samuel. I don't know, man. I'm not interested in Keenan Allen.
I don't know what Plank thought about it.
Yeah, Plank, what do you think about Keenan Allen?
So this is where I'm at. I want to see what we have in Tyler Scott. Okay. Apparently, maybe if they don't feel that Tyler's the guy, but I'm right. I like Keenan. I really do. And even if he come back for peanuts, I don't know that I'm really. I like Keenan. I'm not sure that I want him back. Let's put it that way. I want to see they've interviewed or talked to, however you want to look at it, wide receivers from this draft class. I want to see what Tyler Scott has. I don't know that. I guess that I should have just left it at that. I'm a no to Keenan Allen when it comes down to it.
I think if there's anybody that can unlock Tyler Scott, it's going to be Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Kind of put him in that Jameson Williams role.
The coaches that Ben has has brought in to coach, right, I think are obviously better than anything we had. And I think that we're going to start. I'm sorry to keep going back to it. I think we're going to go to being able to develop all players, offense, defense. We're just better set up.
Right.
And I would rather go see what Tyler has. Draft wide receivers if you feel necessary. I'm not the guy, but let's see what Tyler has.
And if anyone can do that, in my opinion,
Thanks.
Plank, that is Antoine Randall L. Antoine Randall L., I'm very excited for him to be on the Chicago Bears coaching staff. I think that he was the one who essentially but was able to help Jamison Williams resurrect from whatever he was into the player that he is now. I think it's direct, translation there. Nick, I saw you got to get out of here pretty soon. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you'd like to kind of cap this off with?
No, I mean, I'm excited for the drafts, man. I'm excited to see what we do. I mean, free agency is what, on the 12th? 10th?
Yeah, we're getting really close to free agency, guys. I think what it is that there's a legal tampering window on Monday the 10th through Wednesday the
I'm
12th.
thinking of, yep.
And I think on the 12th is when you'll actually start to see teams announce that they've made the signings.
Yeah, 'cause
But
they
whatever
can't-
time the window opens on the 10th at noon, you're going to see Adam Schefter tweeting out, so-and-so has signed, this has happened. And there was a situation last year, I think, where it was, or a couple years ago, Anthony Barr, right? I think Anthony Barr signed to the team, maybe it was the Jets, and then when it came down to it, he backed out. So I hope that doesn't happen to the Chicago Bears. I doubt it will, because it hardly ever happens.
I thought that too.
But we're going to start seeing things fly fast and heavy on the 10th. I don't know, man. Drew Dahlman, Kevin Zeitler, it seems like a lot more of a obtainable situation now that Trey Smith is off the table. We haven't really talked about a Trey Smith trade. I don't know. At this point, I think it's too far-fetched. I would have just loved to pay him and that's it, but to give up capital. The Chiefs did it last year, right? They traded L'Jarius Sneed, and that trade was nothing. They garnered like an exchange of third-round picks and a
Wasn't
fifth
it a
round.
second?
It was less than that. They got peanuts. So I don't even know if the Bears want to give up a little bit of draft capital because, again, this draft class seems so deep. I'm just not interested at this point, man.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, do you guys think that Poles is the first the first person to sign somebody again for the third year in a row?
What was the first year? Because I know DeAndre Swift last
Edwards.
year. TJ Edwards was the very first player.
Then Montez.
Interesting. Well, that was a trade, but no, Nick is saying that the last two free agency periods, the Chicago Bears have been the very first team to announce essentially that they're signing a free agent,
Yes.
which is
TJ
wild.
And DeAndre Swift.
I didn't know that. That's crazy, Nick.
Yeah.
I hope not. Well, I guess it don't matter. I guess it doesn't matter.
If it's Zeitler or Dahlman, I mean, you're kind of pounding the,
Yeah.
you're happy. But if it's, a B-level guy, I mean,
Well, maybe those guys are B-level at this point. I don't know.
yeah, you get what you get, man. You get what you pay for. Unfortunately, I mean, you're gonna overpay in the market too. That's the sad truth of it. You're gonna, a team's gonna go out there and they're gonna pay. I guarantee someone's gonna pay Tevin Jenkins 17 million, 18 million a year just because they need.
Well,
it.
that's
And
what you have to. That's the name of the game with free agency,
It's
man.
gonna become
So
a bidding war at the end of the day.
yeah, these numbers are going to get really crooked really fast, man. This salary cap shot up, and I don't think that the salary cap has the implications of Netflix potentially acquiring the afternoon slate of games too. So the cap could continue to go up as well. So if you get a guy, you don't even have to front load the contract. Pay him a little bit now, backload it a little bit for when the cap goes up again, potentially next year, whatever the case is. I don't know. It's going to be very, very exciting.
I mean,
Guys,
I like what Poles has been doing. He's been front loading a lot of the contracts, and that's why we have so much cap this year. That's why we're gonna continue to have so much cap.
That's exactly right. And once you get into the window where you've got Caleb Williams under contract, hopefully not just as a rookie, that's when you have to do a little bit more backloading, shifting the tectonic plates, so to speak, of the cap. It's going to be a very, very exciting time, guys. Anything else, Plank, you want to cap off with? Final thoughts?
No, not that I can think of. I appreciate you guys having me on. I really do.
Always, man.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. I'm going to have to go back and listen to the Thursday show. I got the last 15 minutes of it, and it sounds like it was a lot of fun. But again, Plank, you're going to be doing a regular thing over on Chicago Sports Podcast?
Yeah, yes. Every Wednesday and every Friday.
Wednesday and Friday. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
9
Thank,
p.m.
I gotta check you out.
thank God it's not
Appreciate that.
impacting the Thursday show. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't care if it was. But fantastic stuff, Plank. Guys, if you're listening to my voice, I will make sure that the link to the Chicago Sports Podcast is in the description down below, as well as for G Walker. G Walker, where can we find you, man?
You can find me on Facebook, CNG Podcast. You can find me on X, CNG Podcast, G Walker, and on YouTube. We're everywhere, man. Final thoughts is this, man. Karl, you've convinced me, man, with the top end talent of the pass rush. I've been going back and forth about what we're going to do at 10, trade back, get an offensive lineman. You know what, bro? With the top end talent, you got to get that pass rush at a premium. I want to see us take a pass rush, man, at 10. It don't matter if it's Pierce, but I really want to see that, man, just because you're saying it's such a premium at the top. So at 10, I think I'm convinced to take a pass rush, man.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, man. The thing is though, I want to take a pass rusher at 10 who is proven, who will be able to hit the ground running. Doesn't need to get 10 sacks, but I want him to be a consistent force. I do not want Shamar Stewart or another sort of project where he may only end up getting 3 sacks in 4 years, but he's affecting the quarterback. I don't know about that, man. You need an impact player. So if that's James Pierce, might be Mykel Williams. If it's these guys who are proven, I'm okay with it. But my ultimate goal, in my opinion, for the draft would be if you can't get a clear-cut blue chip, can't get Mason Graham, let's trade back. Because I think that adding picks to I don't know if it's necessarily a young roster. It probably will be, depending on how free agency goes. But it's young in the sense that it's a brand new scheme. I want guys who are going to be able to get molded by this fantastic coaching staff, as Plank has pointed out, and I want to develop them and make them better than what they are originally. If we take a second-round offensive lineman, I want him to be able to potentially have all-pro potential and be the best guard in the position. Doesn't have to be a top 10 pick at that point. G. Walker, I'll make sure to get your links in the description below as well. You guys have been fantastic. Chat, thank you so very, very much for spending your time with us. We greatly appreciate it. Plank, were you the one are you a new member? Is this you? Or is this someone else?
No. So that's the youngest boy. Not so little, Plank. He's not so little.
Fantastic.
No, that's our youngest son. Yeah. He is.
Excellent.
He's great.
Well, thank you so much. I believe that's a new member to the Bears Country Productions channel. So thank you so much for that. And then I also saw the dollar donation. So that's fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so very, very much.
Yeah. He's a good boy.
Fantastic. If it's anything like you, I think that's absolutely spot on there, Plank. All right, gentlemen.
Better than I.
Yeah?
That's right.
I'll take your word on it then. Guys, thank you so very much for watching. We'll be live hopefully next week as long as we can corral Nick and make sure that his ducks are in a row for next Saturday. We'll be joining you guys. Again, links in the description for everyone. Thank you guys so very much for watching. And until next time, everyone, bear down.
Bear down. Peace.
Bear down.